Welcome back, everyone, to a perfectly on-time installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron, and we're back.
We're back.
A podcast story. Oh, man.
Children of podcasts.
If only I had been recording, the hilarity that would have ensued at the beginning of this episode.
The hilarity that would have ensued at the ending of the episode had you gotten the entire recording without realizing you had totally forgotten your next selection. See, this is why just
If
don't
they could
know
only have heard the panic in my voice.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Just be like me, Ron, and don't know until the very ending until you just pick something randomly off the top of your head. That's fine.
How's it going, Jeff?
Well, I've been troubleshooting computer shit for like 2 days, so that's fun.
I gotta say, you sound crystal fucking clear right now. This is probably the best I've heard you sound in a long time.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I fucking better, because, dude, I changed every goddamn setting known to man in these godforsaken Windows 11 sound properties. Is there anything more convoluted than the way Windows does sound properties, by the way?
There's nothing more convoluted than having two system control panels, the actual control panel and the settings window. I don't fucking understand it.
How are they still so bad at that shit?
You would think they would have picked up a trick or two by now.
They've only been making these things for like 30 goddamn years. I don't understand. I just don't get it, but was literally so frustrated. I told Ron, I was like, I was about to go buy a new piece of equipment, the Elgato Wave XLR, just to be done with the whole fucking thing. And you know what happened? It probably still would have been fucked up, and I would have been even more mad. But yeah, we're gonna be a couple days late with the upload, but it's okay. It's okay. I apologize, Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby's the only one this affects, right?
Yeah, there's a few of them out there, but they just went along with their day, just enjoying their Labor Day weekend. We did them a favor. We gave them an extra day or so without having to hear us speak. You're fucking welcome, America.
I can't help but think that we should try recording the next episode tomorrow because my computer is gonna be the next one.
Dude, it's been a thing,
because I had the issues last time, right?
Yeah, and then I just feel like we're just alternating, like something breaking,
So now my computer, before the next episode, just going to implode on itself over and over until it becomes a singularity and just leaves this universe.
Cut to your computer hanging by a noose at the top of the airplane, like the old lady. It got tired of listening to Ron talk, so it just offed itself.
I walk into the room to sit down and record, and there's a gas can and a lit match laying next to the computer. Next to a sword and rope.
How's it been going with you, buddy? Old pal.
Pretty good. Been watching some DC animated movies.
Nice. What's the most recent one you watched?
I think Superman Man of Tomorrow. Is that what that's fucking called? It's I think it's the first in the Tomorrow. No, it's the second, technically, in the Tomorrowverse stuff happening.
Or you just watch them in like chronological order, or like have release date, or
I tend to. There's still a lot of the DC animated universe I didn't watch before it ended. I started with the ending of the DC animated universe because I hadn't seen Apocalypse War yet, and I didn't know it ended the DCAU. Because that movie ends with the ending of the DCAU, and then it reboots into Tomorrowverse.
Okay, yeah, I'm behind on these two. I was unaware.
They're all on HBO, and I've been wanting to talk to you about Apocalypse War, and more importantly, the DC animated showcase Constantine House of Mystery, because there's 4 animated shorts that they put together into one movie.
Is one of them Shazam? Because I think I remember watching a showcase thing that had like Shazam in it, I want to say, but I can't remember if it's the same showcase type thing you're talking about.
I think that's a different one, because I want to say, what were they? I'm going to look it up real quick. DC showcase cons. What's really cool about the House of Mystery is when when he's inside the House of Mystery, it's his Tomorrowverse animation. And when he breaks out several times and gets sucked back in, when he breaks out, he is the DCAU animation. And when he gets sucked back in, he's the Tomorrowverse again.
That's pretty. Is it Matt Ryan?
Yeah, it's Matt Ryan voicing.
Hell yeah.
Lou Diamond Phillips is Spectre.
Really? That's interesting.
Right?
I always liked Spectre. Spectre's a pretty cool character.
Let's see if I can find... See, I just keep finding information on the short itself.
What were the other shorts that accompanied it?
That's what I'm trying to find. I might just have to look it up on HBO real quick. Because I just keep finding the short itself individually. So I'm just going to go to HBO real fast and look it up. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack in the House of Mystery. I really liked it. But it literally picks up, I don't know, 2 seconds after Apocalypse War ends.
Okay.
So I don't know that it goes over what you need to know. Which is just the ending of Apocalypse War. Apocalypse War just builds up to the end, and then I feel like I'm describing a story structure like creative writing 101. The story builds up to the end, but the ending kind of has nothing to do with the story of Apocalypse War. It's just kind of how we got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it reviews what you need to know at the beginning. It's just the last 5 minutes that's the most important part.
Gotcha.
But Apocalypse War was really cool.
Yeah, I keep meaning to go back and watch those. Do
you know what it's about?
Them a little bit.
So the overall synopsis is basically Darkseid shows up, Apocalypse like boom tubes in outside of Jupiter, and then the Justice League decides that they're going to attack first because he won't see it coming. And this is not a spoiler. This is the first 3 minutes of the movie. It cuts to Darkseid watching them talk about attacking him in real time.
Huh.
And so he has someone on the inside of the Justice League. And when they go to attack, he's waiting for them, but not with parademons. He has paradoomsdays. So he just has an army of paradoomsdays. He's infused Doomsday's DNA into all of his parademons. Mm-hmm. And you just proceed to watch the Justice League get viciously slaughtered and legs ripped off and shit. And then it cuts to 2 years later and the Earth is decimated and there's 30% of the human population left and parademons flying around and most of the Justice League is dead. Yeah. It's nuts.
It sounds really cool.
It's really cool. They do something really cool to Superman.
Okay.
In it too.
I'll be the judge of this.
Oh, you'll like it. It's right up your alley.
Okay.
But that leads into House of Mystery, and House of Mystery is basically he's trapped in the House of Mystery, right? He's not the only character that's ever been there in the comics. But it is, what was that episode of Doctor Who with Peter Capaldi trapped inside the dial trying to escape it for 1,000 years?
Oh,
and
God.
He kept dying over and over.
Yeah, I know exactly. I love that episode.
Yeah, it's Constantine trying to escape the House of Mystery.
Heaven Sent?
Something like that.
Because they had a combination of names on the back-to-back episodes, like Heaven Sent and Hellbent or something like that. I will back check though.
Yeah,
you said it's similar to that.
It's exactly that. It's him and the House of Mystery trying to escape it for 200 years, and he keeps dying and getting sent back over and over and over again.
Gotcha. What was the first episode of? I'm trying to remember. I'm now so behind on the seasons as far as which Doctor is which season. If you just go back through IMDB. Yeah, Heaven Sent and Hellbent are the 2 episodes.
Good job.
Jesus Christ, those episodes were 8 years ago.
My God.
Kill me now, please. Throw me in the House of Mystery, please. Oh, okay, so what was confusing me is the showcase subtitle for it. I was thinking it was one of those straight up anthology ones where they had like 4 like mini movies combined. But it looks like this is just it's like us on Max. It looks like it's just like one movie, or are there separate like individual stories in this hour and 16-minute runtime?
There's 4 shorts. The first one is The House of Mystery.
So okay, they just have it listed weird on HBO because they just have it listed as Constantine: The House of Mysteries.
Yeah, that's the one they know you want to watch. That is the first one.
Gotcha.
And then there's 3 more after that, and I'm still struggling to find exactly, because there's one that like I wasn't exactly familiar with, but I predicted the ending of. It was kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one with a version of The Losers I've never seen before. Taking place in like World War II. Come on, sorry, I'm trying to scan this real quick. Fuck, you have a picture of the World War II losers, but you're not telling me exactly what's in here. Here we go. So, yeah, we do House of Mystery, and then it also has Commandee.
Mm-hmm.
Commandee. He alludes to what he's named after. I think it's Commandee. Takes place in it in a post-apocalyptic world. You've got The Losers, where it basically takes place on Skull Island in World War II. And then, the fuck was the other one? It was one that I was just kind of like, nah, I'm good. Like, I let it run, but I don't remember what it was. I feel like it was before Commandee. But that one was kind of neat because it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and there's it's Stephen Blum's in it, by the way. It's post-apocalyptic wasteland. The only human I remember seeing is Commandee himself. The others are like Island of Dr. Monroe type animal characters, right? Like high evolutionary shit. And there is a trial that they're being forced by a religious sect of gorillas to do, because they are searching for the hero that descended from the stars to save the earth a long time ago, and they're waiting for him to return. And it is said that he will be reincarnated into someone else, and these trials are designed to suss out who is the hero that descended from the stars in his new form. And
yeah, I gotta get caught up with those. There's so many fucking
it's
movies to watch.
I had an idea at the beginning of that episode that I knew who they were talking about. When I got to the end of it, I was absolutely right. So it's very predictable. But, I mean, that didn't really diminish it because the whole thing was just kind of... Like, it was cool. Like, I was happy I watched it. I wouldn't seek it out on its own. I understand why it was wrapped up with Constantine.
It's funny. Like, I tried looking up the synopses for the individual shorts on the fucking DC like fandom wiki, and there's nothing. There's no synopsis for any of the other stories. I was like, really,
even the HBO Max one only shows the information for Constantine short. It doesn't even mention that the other shorts are there.
You would absolutely be pulling up that listing and just thinking it's like an 80-minute Constantine movie.
Yeah,
because it is essentially like false advertising.
And then when I hit credits, I was like, the fuck? Because that's only like 20 or 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what the fuck is the rest of it?
I like anthology stuff though, so.
Yeah, it was really cool, but maybe that's what... I didn't put anthology on the end of it. Constantine, House of Mystery.
It just seems like they tried to like combo pack the other shit in there. Just like, yeah, just watch it. I mean, you already got the fucking movie going. Just watch the shit.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. Jason Blood, Intrigan. Intrigan's really cool in Apocalypse War, by the way. He's the comedy relief, believe it or not.
And that's the like the rhyming demon, right?
He doesn't do that anymore.
He doesn't do that. I thought that was his whole shtick, was like the whole rhyming bullshit.
It is his whole shtick, but like he can't get over that they lost on Apocalypse. So like
He's like depressed, so he's no longer running.
he's depressed, and he just sits and drinks until he blacks out. And
Nice.
he won't fight. He won't do anything. And like the very first time you see him, he does shit like this through the whole movie. A parademon comes in, and Constantine is struggling to fight them, and some of the other characters like Raven and stuff are struggling to fight them because they're still paradooms, right? One of them gets tossed over next to Entrigan, and then it stands up and screams in Intrigan's face, and he just belches flames until it blows away into ash, and then takes another drink and goes back to sleep. Like,
Nice.
they're not a challenge to him, and he can't get over the fact that they lost, and he just doesn't fight. And the entire time, like, Constantine's just like, a little help would be nice. and he's just like, meh. Yeah, like, he wants to fight Darkseid, basically.
I fucking totally forgot they made a movie version of Red Sun. I always wanted to watch that. Red Sun's an amazing story.
There's a shit ton of stuff on HBO for the animated stuff. And people talk about the DC animated movies like they're just garbage, but I like them.
They've had some that are bad. Like, they're not all winners, but I've liked the majority of the ones I watch. The one that was painful to get through. Did you ever watch the Batman and Harley Quinn one? That one was pretty rough.
I did. I don't know if I sounded kind of down or not on Man of Tomorrow, but the only thing I have against it is a retelling of Superman's origin. Mm-hmm. I know Superman's origin. I didn't need a whole other movie about it. Did
you ever watch or read Red Sun?
No, I know what it is. It's if he had landed in Russia instead of Kansas.
Yeah. It's like a fascinating like what if story. For
I like his suit.
Like.
His suit's really cool.
And it's not the same. It's not actually part of like the connected universe, but the standalone movie they did for The Killing Joke was not very good.
I thought it was okay. I had problems with it, but I mean, I don't judge those movies too harshly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't sit down for them like, I would expect out of Batman versus Superman or the Justice League, like Warner Brothers.
I also wanted to watch I wanted to watch their Long Halloween movies because I was like,
it's 2-part, I believe.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, I still need to watch Gotham by Gaslight and Doom That Came to Gotham.
Yeah, I just need some time to just like sit down and just like marathon them for like a whole day because I just forget that they're there.
If you get through Apocalypse War and find yourself with another 20 minutes, the House of Mystery picks up right where it left off.
Okay, cool.
And it's I've been wanting to talk to you about House of Mystery because it's really neat.
Yeah, I plan to get caught up on them. It's just like, man, it's too much shit. I started Ahsoka and got like 20 minutes into it and got derailed because I went to go like make lunch or something, and I still haven't been back to fucking finish that episode of that show.
That's a hell of a lunch.
And I was like, I like got derailed into doing something I don't even fucking know, but I feel like I'm having a hard time keeping my attention span on movies and TV because I think part of it is like the whole like writer strike and actor strike thing is a bummer because you realize we're at a standstill for a while when it comes to stuff, but that's also like a good thing because it can give us maybe a little bit of time to get caught up on stuff since there's not just going to be a non-stop turnout of endless fucking content to consume, which is just like daunting sometimes to think about. I have just endless piles of stuff to read, watch, play. It just never ends.
Yeah, this is a big blind spot that I've been having for a while because there was a period where I was caught up on all of the DC animated stuff, and then I just haven't watched them in a very long time. Throne of Atlantis was where I still haven't watched it yet. But Justice League War was like the newest one that I'd seen, and that's what actually started this because Justice League Dark is actually the most recent, but I went right from Justice League War to Justice League Dark.
Did they do a sequel to Dark?
That's Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
That is the sequel.
That's the sequel.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't realize it was the officially a sequel to Justice League Dark.
Yep, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
Okay. Yeah, I liked the first Justice League Dark movie quite a bit.
What did it is I showed the kids Justice League War, and then I was like, I remembered it being good. I was like, this is better than I even remember. I should go back and watch some of the others. and that's what got me back into to doing it. And Matt Ryan Constantine is always welcome in this house.
Oh yeah, love that dude, and I love how he will basically show up for anything that they want him to either voice or portray him on screen because he just loves playing that character so much. So he just like Nick Cage style says yes to everything, and he's just always there, and it's great because love that dude.
That show was awesome. I'm still mad that show got canceled.
I know that show was dope, and they had like a whole like cliffhanger for the second season and everything, and we were like so stoked for it, and they canceled it. But at least he got to continue playing the character.
And we saw, what was it, Fate's helmet and stuff? Is they're gonna bring him in season 2?
Oh, it was gonna be so good. So
dude, that writing with Fate, come on.
Yeah, it would have been great. But man, I don't think we had any questions, so you pretty much got an impromptu review. An update of Ron's DC watching, so you're welcome.
How are you finding Ahsoka, real quick? Because what I've heard from another podcast I listened to, they're arguing about episode 1 and 2, and then one of the guys had a big problem with 3 being really bland. And when the guy number 2 says, well, it's a filler episode, guy number 1 literally screams into the podcast as loud as he can. Like, why are you having a filler episode in episode 3?
I think it's also only like a 6-episode miniseries like style season, so there's limited time. I've only watched like 30 minutes of it. I can't really say. I've liked what I've seen so far. A lot of it is baked into having watched Rebels, which I have not watched, so I'm a little bit lost on some of the side characters.
That's the thing that I've been hearing is that they think maybe he shouldn't be in charge of series or movies, but should consult, because evidently for 3 episodes, what one of the guys was saying is that they have been catching people up on Rebels characters.
And
they're like, we know these characters, move on, please.
From what I've seen, so as someone who has not seen Rebels, I still feel really, really lost when it comes to the Rebels characters, because I just know I've seen a few seasons of Clone Wars. I have never seen any of Rebels. I know who Thrawn is from the original novels.
I know him from the games,
but I don't know Thrawn from Rebels. So
Thrawn is a son of a bitch if you're not Empire.
It's a little bit frustrating to try to watch it as someone who has not seen Rebels, is like just trying to play catch up, because I feel like Rebels should have continued in its own thing that wasn't just Ahsoka.
I heard something. I heard something about going to find a 1,000-year-old manuscript in an ancient temple to look for someone that's been missing for 10 years. I don't know. Apparently that's like in the first 2 episodes. There's like ancient manuscript that shows where someone's been missing for a decade.
Yeah, I don't know. I will report back once I've watched more of it. I just have only seen like 30 minutes of it, but I like Rosario Dawson as that character. Their supporting cast in that show is very good. There is David Tennant, you know, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Clancy Brown. They've had some really good supporting. Unfortunately, yeah, Ray Stevenson was one of the villains in it, which is a shame that he passed away before he had to see himself in Star Wars. Because I've always really liked Ray Stevenson, and he's been really good in that show so far. Big bummer. Yeah, let's if you have any questions that you would like discussed by Ron and myself, or just even if it's not just like a question, even if it's like a have you guys seen X, Y, or Z? Like we can always give like a little rundown, just like a like kind of preamble, separate mini review at the beginning of an episode. Like we'll pretty much talk about whatever the hell, so it's whatever. Just, email us screenplayrewind@gmail.com, and I will pull it up if my computer will work.
I feel like you're giving up, Jeff.
Bro, my computer just it won. It just beat me down. It's sad.
It is, or you are. As if it won, I don't feel like it is.
But yeah, email us screenplayrewind@gmail.com. Maybe the next episode will be on time. I don't fucking know. Let's wait to see what other piece of technology breaks next. Ron, do you want to talk about some Children of Men though?
Yes, I love being depressed.
Isn't it amazing? It's like, man, I really need to pick me up. Let's watch Children of Men.
Depression, the gateway drug.
Depression of Men.
No kidding.
Oh man, I adore this movie though. It's so fucking good. Spoilers for Children of Men, which is insanely almost 20 years old, which makes me feel really great about myself. And because I remember watching this like back when it was, you know, first coming out, and man, I remember just like being like blown away by Children of Men. You said you had coincidentally been wanting to like rewatch it again just a little bit before I actually picked it for the show, right?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that same no, different podcast actually, now that I think about it, they keep referring back to Children of Men as like a gold standard, and I just kept hearing them talk about it over and over again. I was like, fine, I'll watch it again. Like, and then you picked
It's true though. It's true though. Like you watch this movie, and I just find this to be like one of the most like riveting movies ever made. I think the last 30 to 40 minutes of Children of Men is some of the best like film I've seen. It is just picture perfect for me. But man, is it depressing.
It is
so dark.
It is the best at doing like there seems to be a lot of like UK films that I don't know, they like 28 Days Later, for example, everything just kind of meanders around for a while and then gets going at the end. Like that style of film, this does it the best. Like, because even when they're just meandering around, it's interesting. The world is interesting. The backstory of the world, they fill that in with characters just walking around with news clips going on in the background, or newspapers sitting in the foreground, or whatever.
There is so much lore that is just picked up in the background.
Yeah.
Off of like, so there's a scene where they have, you know, like thrown a black bag over Clive Owen's head, and they have kidnapped him, and he is woken up, like basically like tied to a chair, and surrounding him so that he doesn't know where he's at is just like 1,000 different newspaper clippings. And if you just pause the movie and read, they've taken the time. Like those are all unique and provide background for like the lore of the story.
God. I'm good.
Like did you see in the background, like in the newspaper clippings where like it's mostly it's about the kind of first few years of the apocalypse, essentially, like where like Russia has nuked Kazakhstan. Africa is apparently just like a wasteland. It talks about news. It's so fucking fascinating, and like nothing is ever really discussed by the characters because it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
it's just organically in the background. Yeah, it's common knowledge. You know, it's like how we wouldn't talk to people openly all the time about, you know, like January 6th or something because we were all there. We lived it. You know, it's just history at that point. It's not openly discussed because you wouldn't need to. It's common knowledge, and so much of the background, like with the livestock that's burning, they never outwardly address that because that is just part of their history.
Yeah.
Like there are different theories as far as like what happened, but the leading theory for like the livestock, you know, like piles is just that, you know, like they've basically humans no longer have a future, so they've just kind of like let everything go to shit. And like when you let everything go to shit because you don't really have a future, you know, like the water supplies are all fucked. The animals are all sick because humanity is not taking care of itself. So naturally, like the dominoes fall and it trickles down into everything. And it's a cliche for you and me, but it has lots of like Dark Souls DNA to it. Of letting stuff just be in the background, and you discover it or you don't, and it has the confidence to just let it be there.
Yeah,
and I just love that about it.
There's a lot of higher sci-fi where people would get a coffee and just re-educate themselves on what's been going on for the sake of the audience, that really grinds everything to a halt and pulls the audience out. And this world is very lived in. It has been lived in. It's being lived in. These people know. They're painfully aware of what's happening. So the fact that it doesn't even take the time to catch you up really is really well done, because that is such a risk, you know, if you blow doing that, because is your audience going to be lost, or are they going to just naturally absorb it as the movie goes on?
Yeah.
So
this is also, I think, one of the most like rewarding movies to rewatch, because when you watch it the first time, you're just like really sucked into the kind of macro plot of the characters, you know?
Right.
But when you're rewatching it and you know the macro plot and you're just really paying attention to those background details, it's so like rewarding with rewatch because you're able to pick up on stuff that's happening in like newspaper like announcements. It's like we talked about the background. A lot of stuff actually is like discussed by news anchors. And there's just so much like interesting stuff happening. Let's just run through the cast and crew real fast. So this was directed by Alfonso Cuarón. I think the kind of first thing that put him on the map that people will remember is he directed the third Harry Potter film,
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, he directed Prisoner of Azkaban, that kind of created the new kind of tone and look of what the movies became. And after that, this was
dude's first big thing that puts him on the map. Gets him in the same room with Alan Rickman, Gary Oldman,
right?
Jason Isaacs. Like,
yeah,
it just goes on and on.
Some of just like the greatest living actors that we had.
Yeah, what's the guy's name? Most people just know him as Dumbledore, but like in the UK, he's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Because he's like a Shakespearean actor or something. Like he's known.
Yeah.
Yeah. He some of the biggest names in film. That's what he got to work with. How intimidating is that?
It's also just kind of nuts because that was his first like big budget like directorial role, and to establish the new like look and tone of one of the biggest like franchises in Hollywood at the time is kind of staggering. Like I think he did a really great job with establishing like what would become the kind of baseline for those movies. Now you and I aren't like giant Harry Potter fans, but for just from a directing standpoint, to walk in when he was the first like new director stepping in, like after they
to walk on set, and all those are the faces that are looking at you as you walk in the room.
Yeah,
like oh my god.
And it's not an easy task because the first two movies in that series are very different in tone from what would come after that, because they were essentially like little kids movies. Like they were very, very light in tone. And the Prisoner of Azkaban, it keeps the same like tone as far as what these characters like have set up as far as the stakes, but it just feels like a lot more lived in and a lot more intense because he's just a great fucking director. And like you follow that up with just like the way he directs Children of Men and some of the decisions they made with like the cinematography, where you feel like you're running behind these characters in this combat zone towards the end. Like you're about like ready to like dodge bullet fire with them. It is so visceral in the way it's shot. And like I'm gonna call attention to like the cinematography and everything here soon. But man, I love Alfonso Cuarón. Did you ever watch Gravity? That was probably his other big hit. I would say.
Boy, no, I couldn't get past the trailer, and all I have ever heard is just how wrong that movie gets the idea of gravity. Like it's clear they don't understand how gravity works.
Just as a film, if I know you're more into the sci-fi aspect, not like sci-fi, but like the actual like science behind it. Just as a film though, it is incredibly well directed. And it's a really good movie. But I understand people that are more into like the kind of hard science behind it, they would be able to detach from it. But similarly, just as a movie,
doesn't what's her face? Isn't the only thing with gravity her hair? Isn't it like the only thing not floating in shots is her hair or something? Also,
I don't know,
in a film named Gravity.
But it is just as a film, it's similar in the way that it's kind of like a thrill ride, where it just like the last like 30 minutes of Children of Men, it's that kind of, you're just along for the ride. And I think it was a really well directed movie. Now people can argue like the script and the like taking the opposite Andy Weir approach of like not making it accurate. They were just trying to make a movie that they thought would be engaging. It was successful like as a film. Like it won like fucking 7 Oscars or something. Like it was incredibly successful.
Oh yeah, this movie is very successful.
No, I was talking about Gravity.
Oh, Gravity?
Yeah, Gravity won like 7 Oscars.
Oh my god, why?
It crushed. It's because it's a good movie.
Everything I've ever heard is the opposite.
I think because of like the podcast and stuff that you're following. Because
not just that, just people I know in real life also. My dad, of all people, turned it off.
I have seen it and really liked it, but it's been a minute. But yeah,
when my dad is willing to turn something off, that's a no for me, dog.
I liked. I would have to rewatch it because it's been like 10 years since I've seen it. I really liked it. I thought it was really well done, and it was a successful movie. What's criminal is Children of Men won 0 Oscars. It was only nominated for 3, which is staggering. Because like to me, the cinematography specifically should have won. Because I think Children of Men is just like one of the best shot movies of all time.
There are some scenes that are one take, and then there are some scenes that are simulated one take. And if you had told me that they were actually one take, I would have believed you.
And that's like
it's so seamless.
That is incredibly ahead of its time too, because over the last like 10 years or so, that as like a mindset of making movies more kind of like visceral with the whole one take thing has like Children of Men did that 20 fucking years ago.
Yeah,
they were.
Everyone talks about 1917, but.
No, like Children of Men like really set the standard for that.
Yeah.
It was really ahead of its time. So Emmanuel Lubezki was the cinematographer. He was nominated for the Oscar. Just absolute like shock that this movie didn't win anything, because for me the cinematography should have won. And then Alfonso Cuarón himself and Alex Rodriguez are the credited editors. I also think the editing should have won because, like you said, like it is just fucking seamless, and it's so riveting, and like the ending is so intense, and so like that scene when they have the ceasefire, and you can hear like a pin
it's like
drop.
It's Christmas in World War II or something.
Yeah, it is insane. I love this movie from like a film nerd, and just like thinking about what they had to do, similar to like 1917. You just think about what all work goes in to make these scenes seem as seamless as they are. Is mind-blowing.
I have a question for you. I asked myself this question. I could not find an answer. And I even had extra time because computer problems. And I could not find an answer to it. Why is something like Batman versus Superman, and how dark it is and dour it is, so exhausting that you just want it to end, and this movie is not? It never takes its heel off, right? Like it's very down and depressing. Is it because of the way people live in this? They just find what joy they can in this world, is no matter how depressing the world is. Like, what is it?
What is it that keeps it from being?
What is it that keeps it from being so oppressive? Yeah.
So I think the main difference between this and something like Batman v Superman is, I think you are so invested in these characters and like what's at stake for them inside the world, you don't really have time to get it. And also I think the runtime is really well done. So the runtime only is about 1 hour and 45 minutes. I think if this had been pushed to like 2.5 hours, it could potentially reach that point of becoming exhausting, because it's just so so dark and so depressing. But I think the runtime helps it, and you want them to succeed so bad, because like the way that this movie progresses, like by the end of it, I just feel like you can't help but be so sucked into to rooting for them. So like you're along for the ride. It's not like this just strange, like, because like the tone of BVS is exhausting because you don't give a shit. It never engages you with any of the characters because it's not a well-written story. This is a great story.
Yeah, the other thing I was trying to think about, I picked BVS because that is a touchstone that everybody knows, right? But
yeah,
like, take any other dark, dour, depressing movie, and there's some that like you have to take a break in and come back to it later. And the only thing I could think of, the thing that is different about Children of Men, the closest answer I could come up with is, this movie is so, the world is dark and dour, but the characters themselves are still just people living their lives. Like that scene, like Clive Owen and Jasper laughing, like Theo and Jasper laughing as much as they do, or like the scene in the car with Julian and Theo
with
like
the ping pong balls.
With the ping pong balls, like there's still this oppressive air about everything. Everybody is still living in a state of depression, but like the human spirit itself in this movie, each of the characters are still just people living in the world, just seeking whatever joy that they can find. And that was the closest thing to an answer, as almost cliche as that is. to why I could think of that and we're not focusing on the world at large. There's in the macro level, this world is dark and dour and gloomy, but we don't focus on the macro. We focus on a handful of characters in the micro. And, you know, the world at large is one way, but, you know, just like in real life, average people day to day, it may not be affected the same way. And that's what we're seeing. So I don't want to call it a disconnect, but it is kind of like asynchronous with the world. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. There's something about this that is really well done where, yeah, I'm depressed when it's over, but like, I don't feel like just crushed, you know?
Yeah.
I don't feel the weight of this movie the way I feel like I do in other movies.
Until I think you get to the last like 30 minutes and it becomes that really intense of, you know, like them getting themselves caught intentionally and like after the baby is born, those scenes become incredibly intense.
Did you know that baby is CGI?
Yeah.
That's
it's a really
nuts.
It's a great effect. Like for 2006, the CGI in that baby is fucking good, like insanely good.
They did CGI on the baby, and on the scenes that are simulated one take that they couldn't feasibly do one take. They used CGI to bridge the gap between takes.
Just crazy. Like it's seamless.
It's so
fucking seamless. It's fucking bonkers. Like you can't tell when the edits are happening. It's just it is a perfectly put together movie.
Yeah.
From a technical aspect, the direction, the editing, the cinematography, the music and lack thereof, I think is always like incredibly well done. Because like another thing too, you forget you're watching a movie and it almost feels like a documentary.
And Cuarón literally says in an interview somewhere, I saw it on Wikipedia, that was the feel that they wanted to go for.
And goddamn, did they fucking knock it out of the park with that?
I think it was amazing. Cuarón that said that.
Also, so an aspect of the world building that I think is an amazing choice that kind of goes under the radar because you don't really think about it too often. So the main location they're at is you know, like England basically, right? You know, like London.
Yeah.
You look around London and it is a shit show. It looks like the worst parts of like 1970s New York when it was just like a fucking shit show. This is the part of the world everyone is dying to get into.
Do you know what?
And you put into context, if this is like the Oasis, how awful everywhere else is, and the fact that they don't show you any of that just like fuels your imagination. You're just like, if this is the place that these people are getting themselves killed to break into and become like, and you know, like they even have like derogatory terms for them, like the Fugees, the refugees.
If
this is like, if this is like where they're trying to go to get away from where they've been, like them not showing these other countries and stuff ever is such a good choice because you're just like, I think about like what Africa looks like when they talk about how it is just like a nuclear fallout wasteland, and it's just like, good God, dude.
Yeah. There's some pretty strong imagery that tells you what the rest of the world looks like without showing you. When he's on the bus, I think, and there's that video like Washington has fallen, Paris has fallen, and there's like the American flag. Like I don't think the flag was burning, but there was like a lot of fire with the American flag and stuff, just showing you that like, no, the world pretty much ended. What this feels like is something went horribly wrong in one of the Doctor's adventures, and this is the new timeline that he has to fix. Like, yeah.
So I mentioned Alfonso Cuarón was the director. He also assisted with the screenplay. The other co-writers were Timothy J. Sexton, David Arata, Mark Fergus, and Hawk Otsby. This is based off a novel. We talked about this a little bit the other day, but it was in like the green room before we were able to record. Have you read the synopsis of the novel yet?
No.
So what's interesting is like a lot of the bare bones like DNA from the book is present in the movie, but the kind of it's mostly just the kind of background detail that carries over. The actual main plot line of this is very, very different in the movie, and I think the movie story is much better. The movie story is much less convoluted, very honed in on just following these characters, uh, and I think this is probably like one of the best adapted screenplays because like I was just reading through the and I haven't like, listened to it on audiobook or I haven't read it in its entirety, so like, my opinion could be different if I read it in its entirety. But just reading through the plot line, I like the story, like just the baseline story of the movie much better, and I think it sounds like a much more engaging story. So I'd be curious, like, because you had been considering like listening to the audiobook or reading it. So if you actually do ever get around to, like reading through that story or listening to it, I'd be curious to like, hear your thoughts because it is dramatically different.
Yeah, I was curious. I have a question.
Yeah.
Is he named Theo for literally the word theology?
I think so. I think it's a reference to that.
Because the book is a lot more laden with religious.
Yeah. The book sounds incredibly convoluted.
Right? Yeah.
Like this is a stripped down kind of more character centric take on it, which I think is always like the way to take, because like just like we were talking about with BVS, you don't have a reason to be.
I love how we're talking about Children of Men and BVS in the same conversation.
Well, it's just one of those things where I'm just using it as like
a point of comparison. But still,
yeah, I'm just using it as a point of comparison. It's like when you're just when you don't have a reason to be emotionally attached to the to a character like being successful or failing, you just mentally check out because you don't give a shit.
Boy, I did.
And when you base the story around like you said earlier, it's such like a micro examination of walking through these locations, like walking through this environment that is so hostile and so broken, like it makes it, instead of like being described to in a more like religious context, like the way the book is constructed, just like making it feel more lived in and following in the footsteps of character, I think is always a more engaging story. And I think it is just like expertly adapted.
I know one other property that does just as well as this movie does, with a world already existing, a lived in world that just sucks, but it focuses on the characters, that is also based on a book. And the book is just as good as the film, I think. And that is 1984. I know you
I still need to watch that. Yeah, you let me borrow it, and I think I tried to start at one point, but got derailed by something else. I'm so bad about starting shit, not finishing it, man. It's a real problem.
Yeah, I know you probably feel like you would disagree because I know you fell off of either the book or the movie. I don't remember which one, but that world is insanely dark and dour and oppressive, much like Children of Men. And the book and the movie both do not focus. They talk a lot about the world and the way the world is, more so than Children of Men does, but it is a character study, just like this movie is, about Winston Smith and the girl that gets brought into the story eventually, Julia. Things like that, and their relationship to the party and the government and the proletariats and all this stuff, and how another reason the isolationism of Great Britain in this is very similar also to Great Britain in 1984. It's isolationist, and no one knows what is happening outside of the borders because the government makes sure of that. Things like that. It is very similarly constructed and follows kind of the same example of, this is the world, this is the way it is. We're not going to explain it to you because there's no need to. The characters already know how it is. And here's a character study of this one guy that disagrees with everything happening in the world, but if he even lets that show on his face, he's going to get a gun to the back of the head.
That ultra police state that is also present in Children of Men, like,
yeah.
Man, when you see what's happening to the refugees
at Camp Refuge,
it is.
Tell me you know that reference. I've made it twice to no reaction.
I don't. What is it from exactly? I probably do, but my brain's not functioning properly tonight.
When there's an episode of American Dad when he goes to a refugee camp, and he's like, "Oh, camp! I loved camp. What's the name of this camp? Camp Refugi? All right." And he starts like organizing it as like a summer camp and like doing like different sports and activities and stuff with these refugees, not knowing at all that he's in a refugee camp. And he just keeps calling it Camp Refugi the whole time.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of American Dad, but I might not have seen that one because I just haven't.
It's the only one that stuck with me.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan, but that episode is great.
That is really funny.
Bobby's laughing his ass off every time I mention it, I'm sure.
Nice.
That was a favorite of us in our circle.
Now, we talked about Clive Owen, and I love Clive Owen. I almost feel like it's a shame that he hasn't been in more like high profile stuff over the years, because I've always felt like Clive Owen will kind of like pop up in something and then just straight up disappear for like 5 years. And maybe that's like a personal choice of his, as far as like just being incredibly picky about projects, which is perfectly fine. Not everyone is Nick Cage. Not everyone wants to act like every fucking weekend, you know?
I mean, we're talking about the man that did Shoot 'Em Up, though.
Think of his performance in Shoot 'Em Up versus his performance in Children of Men.
God,
and Clive Owen has some of the most like underappreciated range of anybody. Dude,
Shoot 'Em Up is so good.
His scene at the end of this in the boat. When he's it is fucking devastating, and just the way he talks as he's, and we'll talk about it too. Like the ending is a bit ambiguous, but as he's passing out towards the end, like, oh my god, he's just so fucking good. And
in another world, like, this is, what was the analogy I came up with? We were gonna record the other day, and I thought of it then, and I didn't fucking write it down. This is like, what if you crossed what is if you crossed The Last of Us with X? I had something. It was like if you took the story of X and crossed it with The Last of Us.
Oh yeah. I remember you talking about it, but I can't recall what the other.
I can't recall what it was either. I had that, but that's basically what is happening. It the way that this follows one man, despite everything happening in the world, it doesn't focus on Key or anything. It focuses on him. That's made very clear at the end of the movie when he passes away, and it just goes to credits. Like, his job here is done. But watching this movie and watching this man, like, get one thing after another taken away from him, right? Getting stripped back, peeled back one layer at a time. Because, like, the world has gone to shit. You find out he loses his wife because their kid died, and neither one of them could come to terms with that together, and it kind of destroyed the relationship. And then, so he's already had that taken away. He's a bureaucrat, so he's got a job he hates on top of it.
And he was originally a very, very, active political activist. Like, he was incredibly, anti.
So he's living in a world ruled by a government he cannot fucking stand, essentially.
Just to get by, and he's struggling to get by.
Just like Winston Smith, by the way, in 1984. And then, just like Winston Smith, you watch everything that he kind of does love, however big or small, just get taken away from him. Like when Jasper gets killed, Julian gets killed, and eventually he dies.
Okay. The death of Julianne Moore in this movie is one of the best character deaths in film to me.
Yes.
She's on the fucking poster with him. If you pull up the movie in like Apple TV.
Oh, she was untouchable. There was a period where she reigned. Like, if she was in a movie, like, people went to go see it because Julianne Moore. And it's always been an enigma to me, because when she's good, she's great, but most of the time you can tell she had a mortgage come due. And I don't get it. She drives me. She infuriates me.
Dude, she is only alive for like 25 minutes of this movie, and the way that her character is killed is fucking ingenious.
Brutal. It's fucking brutal.
The way she is killed, the way that it sets up the stakes as far as like no one is safe. Because like, it's Julianne Moore. She's like I said, on the fucking poster, but pretty much with Clive Owen. And she's killed at like 25, 30 minutes in, and you're just like, holy fuck. no one's safe, and like that really like just like sets the stakes as far as when Clive Owen and Key are going through those refugee camps, going through.
I love how we keep switching back and forth between Theo or Clive Owen, but everyone else is just Key or Julian or Jasper.
I mean, I feel like we do that like every episode for every movie.
I know.
But
I just for some reason it's standing out to me in this movie. I don't know why.
But like I've seen this movie like 4 or 5 times.
This is my third.
I watched it again the other night, prepping for the podcast. I'm basically like chewing my fingernails and am a nervous wreck, and I know every fucking thing that happens because it's so fucking good and it's so well thought out. And it's so, also, and just like we haven't even talked about it much, like the supporting cast of this movie is like incredible. I actually had forgotten that Chiwetel Ejiofor was in this, and he's pretty much like the main villain of it.
I was trying to think, what had he done at this point? Because the first time I ever saw him was Serenity, and that was before this, right?
I think, yeah, I will fact check. I think Serenity was before this.
Everyone knows him as Baron Mordo now, but yeah, I was shocked when I saw him because I had no idea he was in this. I did not remember him being in this at all.
Yes, so Serenity was 2005. This was 2006, so that was the year before.
So that was in theaters when he was filming this, probably.
Yeah. And he is insane. I mean, Chiwetel Ejiofor is always great, but he's great in this too. Also, fucking...
I know where you're going.
Charlie Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam is in this movie.
Like, what the fuck? Because he talks. The first time he talks, he's like in a mask, and I was like, I know that voice. It's like I forgot Charlie Hunnam was in this fucking movie.
I never knew he was in this fucking movie.
Yeah, I feel like I probably knew at some point, but like, what the fuck? Raleigh Beckett's in here, bro. Like, and he's an asshole. He's a fucking prick, dude. Oh, by the way, dude can run. He's running down that fucking car rolling down the hill like it's no problem. It's like, goddamn, dude. It's like no wonder he can no wonder he's drift compatible, bro.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
What a piece of shit he is, this dude. Like,
oh my god.
Also, the choice to have dreadlocks on a lot of the white people really adds to your dystopian future.
Right.
Because everyone just looks like they need to shampoo their hair like now or they're gonna die. Just like, bro. Wash your fucking hair.
Danny Houston's in this too.
Yeah, Danny Houston he's not in it for very long. He plays,
but he's great.
He's fantastic. He is the
Take your
upper
pills.
level. He is the upper level bureaucrat who is he Theo's like cousin? I forget.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's some like familial relation.
He has a very bureaucratic name too. He's Nigel.
Nigel.
Yeah.
Theo has to basically bullshit him with a story of a fake significant other to get the paperwork to get him and Key through as many border crossing situations as possible, because it is a nightmare where they're trying to go. I guess we should probably say just kind of like the baseline plot. I'm assuming everyone is at least familiar with like the basic plot of Children of Men, but just in case. So this is set 20 years after all women have become infertile, and the movie actually opens up with a really funny thing, because I really like how so many people are like devastated over the youngest person having been killed, and then everyone is like, that guy was a cunt.
Yeah.
Because like he's only famous and is only a celebrity because he's arbitrarily the youngest person alive. He has done nothing. He is just one of,
and it like ruined his life.
That is the type of thing that it would absolutely happen with our society. And then it's like the dark comedy behind it is like 5 minutes after he's been killed, they pass over the fucking, like they pass the torch the next youngest person. It's some woman they announce on the news, and it's just like, oh man, it's such a bleak but like accurate observation of the way they would turn that into a celebrity status.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think he's like 18 or 19. At the time of his passing, they go down to like the seconds that he was alive. It's kind of crazy. The first time I watched this, though, I remember like when he walks out, when Theo walks out of the little coffee shop and it just explodes.
Yeah.
And then they cut to the title card. What a fucking opening scene, dude! Like it really establishes just how like fucking haunting and devastating this movie is going to be.
You know how I think it's Charlie Hunnam that talks about how that is the government doing those bombings and saying it's them, saying that it's their group.
Yeah.
That is very 1984 also, because it is alluded to that the government is bombing their own people to perpetrate that this war is going on out in the world, but no one knows what's actually happening. But it is alluded to that the government is like bombing their own citizens every once in a while to keep that going.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of 1984 parallels throughout this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And dude, how fucking amazing is Michael Caine in this movie? This might be like one of my favorite Michael Caine performances. I love his character in this.
Michael Caine, maybe in his entire career, should just be known as the most underutilized actor. I don't think he is one of those that doesn't get enough credit like we talk about. I think he's just underutilized because he's another one that is very versatile, right? Take what's that movie where they're trying to con the old lady, and then take his character from that, put him into Alfred, right, the size of a tangerine, and then put him into fucking Jasper.
Well, I fucking love him in this movie.
Those are
He's so good.
very different characters.
The way he is in Kingsman is very different too.
Yes.
Yeah. Man. Did you ever watch Harry Brown, by the way?
No, I don't even know what that is.
I should watch Harry Brown again and just make sure that it holds up, because like Harry Brown's basically Michael Caine in a Punisher movie.
Oh.
So he is and like he's like in his 70s, right? Because this was like made in like the late odds, like 2009, 2010.
He plays Jekyll and Hyde in a 1990 TV movie?
That'd be pretty good. I'd like to watch that.
I need to see this.
So in Harry Brown, though, he is like an like military badass. He's a widower, and his best friend is killed by some like thugs, and Harry Brown like basically vows to like kill all the thugs to avenge his best friend, and it's fucking awesome, dude. It's just Michael Caine being Frank Castle, and I will watch that every fucking day of the week. I love that movie.
Did you know that I've never seen either one of these, but did you know that he was both in the original and the remake of Get Carter?
Oh, I did not realize that. That's pretty cool.
In the original, he's Jack Carter. I didn't see who he played in the remake, but yeah, he was in both of them. I'm trying to find the name of that one fucking movie. I think I've scrolled past it because I was scanning. I wasn't really going down the list. I think I missed it. Hang on. He's in the original Italian Job, 1969. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I need to do a deep dive on Michael Caine, dude.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
I think we all do. Yeah. That's everybody's homework for next time.
Watch every single Michael Caine movie.
Could you imagine if we did this podcast but by an actor and we just came back in and dumped like 18 different movies on the table?
Just do step by step. We had to watch everything, and it's just like a complete like biographical career analysis.
Yeah. That sounds like it could be an interesting podcast that I'm sure there are 1,000 of out there, but
yeah. Or you could do Nick Cage and just never run out of content.
Oh my God. Do we just need to do a Nick Cage podcast?
We basically already do a Nick Cage podcast because we've covered like 5 of his movies the last 2 years. He's like the most I mean, it goes to show just how prolific he is because he's the most prolific actor on Screenplay Rewind, you know?
Right?
He's in all the movies. He's eventually going to be in some SPRs, bro.
I don't think.
Did you ever find the movie? Or are you still scrolling?
I'm still scrolling and looking for it.
What was the basic plot about again?
they're living in an old lady's house and like planning a bank robbery, but they're like Airbnb-ing in her house. They're like pretending to be like a band or something, so they like put on an old 45 that's playing while they're quote unquote practicing while they're like making their plans and shit. I thought it was in the 60s, but I'm not seeing it. I thought I would know it by the name. I guess I don't know the name of it, and that's why I can't think of it. I'm pretty sure it's him.
Was it remade?
Maybe.
It sounds really familiar. It sounds a little bit. Is it The Lady Killers?
It might be. Let me see.
I haven't seen the original, but I saw The Lady Killers Tom Hanks remake, which was, God, what fucking year was that in?
Is it Going in Style? Let me see. 1979, Going in Style.
I call this has become an IMDb deep dive.
We just need an IMDb podcast. That's what we need to do. That's what. Well, at some point we usually turn into, but that's not in his IMDb. I googled Michael Caine heist movie. What the fuck? What the fuck, Jeff? I don't know.
I wonder if you're thinking of The Lady Killers and it's a different like.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's not Michael Caine. Yeah, let me see.
This is Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness was in the original Lady Killers. I don't know if maybe you're thinking that was him.
Oh, fuck off. I don't want this one. The original's what I'm looking for.
5 oddball criminals planning a bank robbery rent rooms on a cul-de-sac from an octogenarian widow under the pretext that they are classical musicians.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of Alec Guinness.
That's The Lady Killers and Alec Guinness.
And Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got your old white dudes mixed up.
Yeah. Apparently I was thinking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which really, when am I not? You know?
Yeah.
I can hardly be faulted.
That's a name I've not thought about for a long time. Let's circle back around to finish up chatting about Children of Men, though.
No, I'm good. No.
We just call it a day.
Did you know, Jeff?
Did you know
that's a reference only you and I would get? Did you know that the fucking ant in Harry Potter that blows up like a balloon and floats away is in this movie? And is a major part of this movie?
Is that Miriam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
do you know which Harry Potter movie she's in, Jeff?
God. That would have been the 5th one, right? Is that with Umbridge? Is she Umbridge? Or is that...
well, this says that she's in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, the one that gets inflated. Okay, sorry, I was getting
I'm pretty sure she's the one that gets inflated. I don't know anything about Harry Potter.
we made that abundantly clear.
Hey Chris, is the ant that gets inflated and floats away, is that in Azkaban? Okay. Yeah, that's Miriam in this.
No shit. I didn't realize that was her.
Do you know? Should we just review real quick which Harry Potter film Cuarón directed?
Oh yeah, that's probably where you ran into her.
That's what I was thinking.
Nice. Yeah, I hadn't put that together yet.
That was my thought exactly.
How was Michael Caine not in Harry Potter?
I don't know.
That's mind-boggling.
You would think. We had is it Broadbent? I can't. I'm blanking on his name. I can. He's in it. You would think
he was Slughorn.
Yeah, you would think we would get some Michael Caine in there, but
the other one. How the fuck was Helen Mirren not in Harry Potter?
Yeah, that's an oversight. Helen Mirren should be in all things ever.
Like, what the fuck was that?
The thing that I could not get over in the 3rd Uncharted game, by the way, is the villain of that game is very clearly supposed to be Helen Mirren.
Oh, yeah.
So on my YouTube channel, every time she's on screen, it's like, oh, fuck, Helen Mirren's here. We're dead.
Another aspect of the movie I want to talk about before I forget. I love the attention to detail, and it might have been from the novel, but whichever like was the source for the idea of the school being abandoned because kids are no longer a thing.
Yeah,
it's such like
what do you need schools for?
Yeah, it's abandoned because there's no more kids.
Yeah, no more kids.
Like
you don't need schools.
That is something that's like so simple, but it would be a complete oversight to a lot of people preparing this type of dystopia, I think.
If you want to go back to characterizations real quick, Pam Ferris recounting that she used to be a midwife. And she was there at ground zero when babies just stopped being born. Like, one after another, they were stillborn. Then eventually the roster for like moms to be coming in was just blank because there was no more names. And
just so haunting.
Her talking to like her friends and coworkers that work at other places, having the same experience, and them not being able to reconcile that.
Man, it's just it's such like, because it's obviously devastating and heartbreaking for everybody, but especially for people in like certain professions, you're always going to feel the most impact, because it's like thinking of like putting yourself in her shoes.
Yeah.
As someone in that job at that time. And that happens in real life all the time. You know, like there's a lot of aspects of certain things that become history that are like, they impact everybody, but they impact certain people, you know, just because they happen to be in a certain profession. And it really is, you know, just like with, you know, like with COVID. Think of like the perspective of COVID for people on the macro versus people who were doctors and nurses during that time. Well, it's a completely different thing.
The example that came to my mind listening to you talk was firefighters ground zero 9/11.
Exactly. It's just a completely different way that you look back on it, because it's almost like where it is something that has happened and is a piece of history and a piece of your personal background. You know, it's such a different thing.
Listening to, and I've already closed her IMDb page. Was it Pam Ferris? Listening to her recount that story to Clive Owen, do you know what it reminded me of?
What's that?
Quint and Jaws with the Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it made me think of.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see that. Like, and the way her character like pretty much sacrifices herself is so heartbreaking too.
Yeah.
Like, where they know like the only chance to get Key out of there is she pretty much has to, you know, start acting crazy to be the focal point of the security guards. And it's just like, God, it sucks, because like, especially she is pulled off of the bus
and bagged, and
you realize the full extent to like what's happening, because
as they drive off,
when they're driving away, the camera isn't focusing on them, it's focusing out the window, and it is just like encompassing like what's going on in these refugee camps, and it's fucking brutal, dude.
Yeah.
But oh my God, it's like I'm just like scrolling back through the pictures, the photos from the film, and just trying to remember stuff that I wanted to touch on, and it's something else. Like, you just have to. I also really like the character of the lady who is with Sid, the lady with the dog,
dude.
Who as soon as she figures out like
what is it?
You know, that she's. Like, yeah, as soon as she figures out that, you know, she has a baby, when she just goes like fucking postal on Sid to help them, it's such a cool, like, because like that's the other thing too. You want to know what I think really, really sets this apart from other dystopian pieces of like depressing fiction?
The movie's technically about hope.
Yeah, the movie is showing the kind of duality of it instead of just harping on the like the darker aspects of like humanity, because the main scene that I think shows that is the ceasefire. The people that see the baby are just shocked, and like I love like that scene when they're near the stairwell, and the general and like the guy like running that's like the battalion tells them all to stop fucking firing.
Ceasefire.
Yeah, just and then as soon as they're out of range of everything,
the rocket,
it immediately resumes the violence, because like they're focusing on like humanity still has, you know, good aspects to it, because it always will. It's just when there is no like hope, everything just goes to shit, because people just feel like they have nothing to live for, and they're not entirely wrong. Like, humanity is fucked. There is no future. There's only what, like 100 years left, and probably a lot less than that.
Oh,
because the lifespan of people, because of how terrible the conditions have gotten, even in the better zones like around London, like life expectancy is plummeting because of how, you know, like people are naturally going to be sick more often. The food quality has gone downhill. they probably have very little access to basic medications because
water.
there no longer is like the infrastructure of like trading with other countries even. Because everywhere else is just a nuclear fallout zone pretty much by the way that they talk about everywhere else. So it's like I think the decision to end the film so typically when something is like trying to show like a more hopeful ending, they will do like a fade to white sometimes instead of a fade to black. But doing the fade to black and then having the backdrop for the credits be children laughing, I think is like the final kind of like stamp on the movie as far as like showing the duality of it, where you don't know the full context of what this humanitarian project that they're trying to get Key to with the baby can do, but there's still hope there. And like Theo pretty much dies with a smile on his face because he's gotten her there. He's given them a chance. Like humanity isn't in the clear, but they have a chance, and that's kind of like the focus of it. It's about the hope behind it instead of just having this dour. There is no way back from this. I don't know if that makes any sense.
In my mind, he dies because she's decided to name her child Dylan after his child, because he dies before the boat comes. He doesn't know that they've made it.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that they're in the right place. He doesn't know.
Yeah, but he knows he's given her a chance because he's gotten her to that position that they were trying to get to. You know, like he's given her at least that chance.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know for sure. And even with them being there, you don't know. It is very ambiguous as far as like what they can actually do, because like they've talked about multiple times inside the movie, they don't even know if this humanitarian project is legitimate, because it is Julian that has heard about it, and pretty much like what gets relayed to Theo is like it was like she knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody at the project, so it could be just like a myth.
Because again, the movie is about hope and the concept of hope. So you just have to hope that it's a real thing and that they can do what they believe they can. Because the movie's not about whether they can or not. The thing that stands out to me upon this reviewing that I think is maybe a little strange, if not a little bit misguided even, is I can't think of a single person that helps them outside of Theo that is a man. I don't know if that's supposed to be a commentary on like maternal instinct, but it seems like the men are trying to slow them down and the women are helping them.
Yeah. It's interesting. There are. It's tough because the group being spearheaded by Luke, by Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, is
which he gets exactly what he deserves. By the way,
he does.
He's a shit.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Like them, and like them being the ones that got Julian killed. Just to have the baby stick around so they can use her as like a political asset is fucked up beyond like that. She was their leader pretty much, and they arranged a coup just to have like political power, even though their leader was trying to do the right thing and get her out of there.
These are the same people that claim the government is perpetrating the bombings, not them. So further lending to you can't trust anything anybody is saying, because the people that just did a fucking coup to leverage the first child being born in 20 years as a political weapon just literally killed their own leader. Like, what?
But I do think it's not entirely motivated behind the like men versus women aspect of it, because they also have Jasper's character, and Jasper's character has his wife is catatonic because she was tortured by the government, and he's been taking care of her this whole time, and he ends up like sacrificing himself to give them a shot, so he's also helping them. It's not purely,
I guess,
like,
Jasper and Theo, I guess, are the two standouts.
Mm-hmm.
But
that group, as far as the random side characters, instead of like the actual like the side characters instead of the supporting cast, I guess I should say, is like predominantly But yeah, I do think there is like an element behind it. It's interesting because so much of it is just kind of like left up to your interpretation. They don't
Which is the goal. The goal of the movie.
Yeah. I think that it sounds like from what I've heard and read about the book that stuff is more on the nose in the book, and I'm glad that they leave it a little bit more vague in the film. And like even as far as like a lot of the themes are clear, but some of the themes are a little bit hazy as far as what you're supposed to draw from it and what you're not. You don't really know.
Yeah.
Which makes it more interesting because like we've been talking about it for like an hour. It's a really, really complex movie to dive into. A lot of shit that happens in this movie as far as like the refugee camps and everything, I feel like this movie is forever relevant because of its themes and because of its like analysis of like what humanity can do to destroy itself and what it can also do on like the micro level to save itself. At least try. It's pretty beautiful because like there's aspects of this movie that are absolutely haunting and depressing, but there's so much of it that is uplifting. And I just think it's a fascinating movie to talk about, and I'm glad that we were able to talk about it on the show because I've always loved this movie. I love the complexity of it. I love because it's like fascinating from a film perspective, just as someone that likes the technicalities behind it, that likes the idea of like how they would set up these scenes to make it work as well as it does on a cinematography level, editing, directing, acting, and everything is just like so on point that it really just kind of like presents these themes in a really interesting context with a lot of great actors. And yeah, I just think it's a absolutely fantastic movie and probably one of my favorites the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy this movie. I don't know if it's one of my favorites, but I'm not going to turn down a viewing. It's I
just
really
so
do.
Yeah, it's one of those where it is not one you can revisit particularly often because of how bleak it is. But it's one of those where it's like when you do get back around to watching it again, you're just like, man, you forget just how fucking amazing it is. It's pretty much like perfect in what it's setting out to do. I just absolutely love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on with the movie before we sign off?
Rita Davies. I was like, why has she claimed her IMDb when she's only in the coffee shop and gets blown up at the beginning of the movie? You know she's in Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
I did not realize that.
She's in the Da Vinci Code, and she's in the last thing she did is the live action remake of Beauty and the Beast. She's the old woman at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
The one that is denied staying and then turns out is not an old woman and enchants the castle.
That's crazy. Yeah, I did not realize that. That's crazy.
I did not realize because I was looking at the Children of Men IMDb, and if you just look at the top cast, she is in the top cast, and she's the only one with a picture that is not Chiwetel Ejiofor, Julianne Moore, Clive Owen, or Michael Caine.
Right.
And I was like, why? So I clicked on her, and I'm trying to remember. I know Monty Python and the Holy Grail pretty well. I'm trying to remember who the fuck is the historian. She's the historian's wife.
Okay.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail historian. A famous historian. Is literally his character. Is
famous historian.
Yeah, it's a dude with a bow tie and everything. Huh. So he's the guy that starts to introduce the movie, and a knight on horseback rides by and kills him.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So she's got to be in this movie for like 5 seconds.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry. I didn't mean to derail the entire podcast.
No, it's all good.
If you look at the structure of this page, there's one person besides her and the main cast, the main four, that has a picture and is listed in the top cast on IMDb, and I had to know why. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, no, I like this movie. That's all I got.
That's my final review.
That's my final review. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I also really like the Google. You know how they have like three kind of three tags underneath like everything.
Yeah.
And if you look up Children of Men, it is uplifting, bleak, and suspenseful. I don't think uplifting would have been the first one for me, but I get what they're saying.
That is technically what the ending is supposed to be, but you have to go through the rest of the movie to get there.
Yeah, technically it should be bleak, suspenseful, and uplifting, not like not leading off with uplifting. I just thought that was funny. I will do our sign-off plugs real fast, and then I will turn it over to Ron to announce the next film we're covering in a couple of weeks. That will hopefully be on time, but no promises. If you would like...
This is us.
It is, yeah. Screenplay Rewind. It's kind of our shtick. We have IMDB derailments, which is a fucking tongue twister to have. And we have our show be late every now and then, or we're late recording it, or all of the above.
Or all the above.
Don't worry about it. If you would like a prompt or a question discussed by Ron and myself, email us at screenplayrewind@gmail.com. We are on Twitter /X/ whatever the fuck Elon's renamed it to this week, at SPR Filmcast. You can follow us there for show updates. If you would like to leave like a like or subscribe on YouTube if you caught us there, that's always appreciated. Any ratings or reviews wherever you caught us, whichever platform, is always helpful, and share us out to your friends. That's really, really appreciated. Ron, what's the next movie, bro?
Well,
is it uplifting, bleak, and suspenseful?
That depends. That entirely depends on you, my friend, because I am giving you a choice.
You're giving me a choice.
I'm giving you a choice. So you are once again picking, but between two movies I have chosen. So do you want to do a redemption, a movie? I have two movies that are universally considered bad. One, I do not think is bad. I think is legitimately a good movie, and people just need to fuck off. I have another movie that
people just need to fuck off. I want that on a poster.
Yeah, people just need to fuck off. I have another movie that is a propaganda movie.
Propaganda?
Are you familiar with the propaganda genre?
I am not. What is propaganda?
Like your Dirty
exactly?
Harrys and stuff like that.
Okay.
I have a propaganda movie for you that is so laughably bad. So, do you want to redeem a movie, or do you want to make fun of a movie next time?
God. Do I get to know the movies, or do I have to pick based off of the template?
You get to pick off of the template.
I get to pick off the... Okay, this is fucking interesting. I didn't realize I had a fucking quiz at the end of this.
Okay,
let's do the redemption.
You want to do the redemption?
I'm in an uplifting, bleak, and suspenseful mood, so let's try the redemption.
Yeah, that's good, because both these movies were on HBO, and now only the redemption is, since we rolled over to another month, apparently. We would have to pay money for the other one. So I think legitimately that Predator 2 is a good movie.
Okay.
And I do not understand. I want you, Jeff, next episode, explain to me.
Am I the deciding vote? Am I the deciding vote on the deems whether this movie is good or not?
I want you, Jeff, to explain to me why everybody hates this movie next time, and then we're going to end with me telling you to fuck right off.
Okay, I can work with that.
Because I don't get it. Is it Predator 1? No. Is it the greatest movie I've ever seen? No. Is it a good movie that I enjoy watching? Yeah. And a lot of the complaints that I hear, and we'll get into it next time, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Usually what they're complaining about is the point of the movie.
You know what's interesting too? That is actually inching us towards having a complete coverage of Predator. Because we have done Predator, we have done Prey, and we will be doing Predator 2. That just leaves like Predators and The Predator, and we have like all of them covered. It's kind of crazy.
It depends on how you look at the mythology.
Oh, about the AVP ones being covered or not? I don't consider them with the actual like. Okay. I don't consider them. I consider them their own thing instead of belonging in like the Predator canon.
The Predator movies
like,
happened in the AVP universe, so I didn't know how you considered it.
Yeah, just like the quote unquote Predator, movies, not like the team, because it's like I don't consider Freddy versus Jason. It's like its own thing. I don't consider that like one of. I don't consider that one of like the Nightmare on Elm Street films. It's like a little side thing.
Could you imagine if that's what ended this podcast, and I just couldn't reconcile that you don't consider Freddy versus Jason canon?
It's not that I don't consider them canon. It's I don't consider them part of like the catalog. It's like do you consider, to bring this full circle? Do you consider Batman v Superman a Batman movie? Because I don't.
I don't. Not at all.
Not at all.
No, but no, Predator 2 is our next next movie. And if you want to tell me why I am wrong about it being a good movie, you can email us at screenplayrewind@gmail.com or tweet us or at SPR Filmcast on X.
I fucking hate that goddamn name.
X.
Yeah, I will have to figure out if I like it or not, because I have seen the second one. It was a long ass time ago, and I just thought it was okay. So I didn't fall in either camp. But yeah, people do have a strong dislike of that movie. And I feel like people had a strong dislike of every fucking Predator themed thing after the first movie until Prey. People liked Prey. But like, people fucking hate the Predator sequels and soft reboots and shit. And
I don't get it.
yeah, I find most of none of them are ever as good as the first one. But that doesn't make them, like colossal pieces of shit,
Yeah.
I like most of them. Some of them are just kind of but they're not like the worst. But yeah, let's find out. Out of curiosity, what was the propaganda movie?
I think I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna put it in my pocket. I'm gonna save it.
Fuck you, dude. I want to know what it was. I'm curious now. Can you tell me after the recording?
I'll tell you after the recording.
Okay.
I planned on telling you after the recording.
Fuck everyone else.
Everyone else can just fuck off.
Oh man. I like the continuing roller coaster ride of like Airplane, Children of Men, Predator 2. It's such a fucking batshit combination sometimes of what like follows up what on this show in like different ways. It's really fun. And so that's what keeps it fresh though. Like there's no through line when it comes to like the genres and tone and shit of this movie.
Who knows what these wacky hosts are gonna do?
Yeah, we're kind of nuts.
You want to get nuts?
You want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Oh man. On that note, have a good night, everybody.
Oh, I stopped right after the everyone can fuck off. No,
man.
I'm still recording, but I really considered cutting it there and then the music coming back and then the rest of the sign off.
Yeah, you should do that.
I'm really tempted to do that.
You should do that.